Well, good morning. Two things that are important today, I think, is one, you haven't noticed, but many of you, the first time probably ever in this decade, I've worn a suit without boots. And secondly, this will be my last time to address you as president of that organization. If you guys go ahead and lock the doors, bring out the guns, and we're going to make this thing last another year here.
I'm all for that.
Truly, good morning. It's a great day to be here in Boston with over 3,000 of my AILA colleagues registered for this conference and guests from ICE, CBP, USCIS, State, and the Department of Labor. When I flew out here Tuesday, I halfway paid attention to the flight attendant as she was making her announcements. But then, as I was trying to bring my speech together and come up with a theme, it kind of dawned on me that several of those announcements that you hear on an airplane are a little bit related to how I felt about my presidency moving forward the year. And it always starts off with the safety announcement. Welcome aboard. Please fasten your seatbelts. And that's the way last year started in June when I became AILA president. I had such high hopes for immigration reform. The very same week I was installed, the Senate passed their bipartisan immigration reform bill, S-744, and hey, I thought this is going to be great. I really am going to have to fasten my seatbelt because I'm going to get to be the AILA president, and everybody wants to be the AILA president when you have immigration reform. Well, pretty much immediately, it became abundantly clear that it was going to be a rough ride and we might not get there. Almost the very next day, the House announced that it wasn't going to do immigration reform comprehensively, that if anything, they might do it piecemeal, but as time went throughout the year, we saw that it wasn't going to be piecemeal. They just didn't want to do it at all. But I was still hopeful, and I am still hopeful, that we may have reform this year. It was exciting also because on the very day that I became AILA president, the very day the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Section 3 of DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, thus improving lives of same-sex couples all across this great country. Fundamental changes in immigration law were about to happen. That day, I got to have lunch with my ex-com colleagues with Alexander Mayorkas. And we sat down with him, and he was very receptive. And we outlined some actions that we thought necessary by the agency. And we also sent requests to all components of DHS impacted by the DOMA decision. We were excited because the leadership at DHS responded immediately and unequivocally. They instructed the field to recognize same-sex marriages for every relevant benefit if the marriage was legal where it's performed, regardless of whether or not that particular state recognized the validity of the marriage. And while there are still a few isolated glitches, for example, CBP in some cases will issue a same-sex spouse a B2 as a domestic partner classification coming across the border instead of the proper derivative status. And occasionally we see a glitch with the Department of State inconsistently handling some FION cases. But for the most part, we've been very pleased with agency response. And right now, let's give a hand for the agency in regard to that issue. The positive impact of their action on the lives of many has been incalculable. And then you hear the message from the flight attendant. On behalf of the crew, welcome aboard. In the last year, AILA members, chapters, and staff have been working hard and effectively to better the lives of our clients, which also makes this country a better place to live. In August, AILA, AIC, the Immigration Advocates Network, and the Own the Dream campaign launched our Pocket DACA. Also, a hand for Laura, because Laura was very instrumental in bringing that to fruition. And the Pocket DACA is a very effective smartphone and tablet that was aimed at helping folks find out whether or not they were eligible for DACA and then lead them to a very competent and qualified attorney to help them prepare their application. Later in the summer, California passed the Trust Act. And that was a huge success. and reflected on all the hard work by AILA members to make sure that the bill was passed, the one that was passed, was one that didn't hurt immigration attorneys, and at the same time, it was a bill that protected the public. And I want to thank the California chapters for stepping up on this. I want to thank Lisa Baker Jones, Tammy Lynn, Cynthia Lucas, and Swetakanda for all, and Victor and Louisa, everybody for helping us push that through with the type of language that we wanted in the bill. Then comes September. And in September, one of our own got a very special bit of news. And my good friend and fellow in-law member, Margaret Stock, was named one of the 2013 MacArthur Foundation Fellows. You're never going to see me get that award because that award is sometimes called the Genius Award. And it was given to Margaret in recognition of the fabulous work that she's been doing, changing immigration law regulations, changing immigration law policy for our veterans and our active duty military. And AILA has directly benefited from all of Margaret's hard work, as she was the key in creating the American Immigration Lawyers Association's Military Assistance Program, not only helping members of our military, but providing important volunteer opportunities for our membership. Then on a flight, you hear the captain speak. In case of turbulence, but not every event this year was shining, nor has every effort been a success. In October, the House Democrats introduced a comprehensive piece of immigration, their own reform bill, and at that time we asked Speaker Boehner to bring this bill up for vote because we've been working hard with Congress. We knew that we had the vote, Democrats and Republicans in the House, to push this through if only Boehner would bring it to vote. Unfortunately, we simply couldn't get it up. We were begging him to bring it up so that we could overcome the strident rhetoric that has been used to strike immigration down again and again and again, but unfortunately, no luck. Hey, in December, we have 150 AILA members join some of AIC staff in a 24-hour fast for immigration reform. Victor and I didn't participate in that. Leslie did. And we are very proud of those members who took part in that activity. And then the captain comes on and he says, "In climbing to cruising altitude." Well, 2013 wrapped up with new Homeland Security Director or Secretary Jay Johnson being confirmed by the Senate. And our own keynote speaker today, Alejandro Mayorkas, was confirmed as DHS Deputy Secretary. At that time, we were looking for smooth skies, great people in the right job. 2014 started off pretty well, with the long-awaited news that USCIS was going to clarify its waiver policy under the Provisional Waiver Program. Because we all know, having watched that very close, the Provisional Waiver Program wasn't rolled out very effectively. We're still waiting, we're still watching. We've been working with them on a regular basis to see how that's going to ultimately end up. At the tail end of January, House Republican leadership released some immigration reform standards. It sure looked like the House might be moving in the right direction, but unfortunately, even that piece of paper with just some very vague standards and clear ideals was enough to fire up the far right wing of my party. They flipped out, and once again, things stalled. Throughout the year, though, I've had wonderful opportunities to meet several ranking Republican leaders in the House, and I've seen how factions of the Republican Party have used immigration as a club, attacking their own leadership and each other. As a Republican, this deeply pains me, but I have hope in responsible leadership in that party, because people like Paul Ryan and Mario Diaz-Balart, these are individuals who have refused to throw in the towel on immigration reform because they know it's right for the country, they know it's right for all Americans, and most importantly, they know that it's right for the Republican Party. The stewardess says, "In the event of a water landing." Well, this year, April's Fool's Day was a whole week, 5 business days. Our own April Fool's joke of an H-1B visa season came around again with more than 172,000 individuals applying for 85,000 slots. And in the midst of all this madness, what do we hear? That FedEx processing had first been denied access to drop off all these packages? April Fools, right? And then a conveyor belt breaks at one of the service centers, and all the checks are separated from the filings. There's talk of mass rejections. The chances of success are bad enough as they are. It's like, a needle in a haystack. But when you have the agency's inability to accommodate these mass filings, things even become worse. Well, I'm telling you right now, it's past time for this crap. Wait. It's past time for the cap. Yeah. So let's increase those visa numbers, and let's do away with the cap completely. There are so many reasons to do away with the cap. Free markets, STEM shortages, global competition. Come on, USCIS just spent $400,000 returning applications containing $100 million in checks. Boy, that makes sense, doesn't it? And then the stewardess says, free to walk around the cabin when the seatbelt light is off. Well, how many of you stepped up in April and participated in National Day of Action, taking our message to the Hill in D.C. or through district visits? And how many of you participated in Citizenship Day activities in April? Not enough, I guess. I do things that would draw an applause. It's just not enough people, I guess. Well, I'm so proud of our AILA Bar Association and everyone who did so, who put yourselves out there to make a difference. Thank you very much. And then we come to May, and DHS is now proposing in May some changes to the H-4 and some other highly skilled visa rules. Well, I think this will help, but we're still waiting on reform. In the meantime, AILA's there, we're always there, commenting on and negotiating rule changes. Well, how many of you also had issues come up when EOIR's computers crashed? It took more than a month for them to get things up and running, or at least partially running. And the whole problem directly points to the desperate need for more funding for our immigration courts. You can't really hold EOIR, you can't hold the judges accountable when they don't have the money to make the system work. Congress, wake up and give us some money. The AILA Amicus Committee this year had another great year. This year, AILA submitted 20 briefs on cases including topics involving asylum for unaccompanied children, applicants subject to reinstatement of removal, the availability of relief for lawful permanent residents, prolonged detention, criminal grounds of removability, and issues affecting alien labor certifications. Now, these briefs and all the related practice advisories are available to you on AILA InfoNet. The one I really felt comfortable with is to see our amicus team step up and get actively engaged in business immigration this year was their amicus brief in the Microsoft case at Balka. And it resulted in a settlement of that case with clear guidance to employers on the notice and consideration requirements in the alien labor certification process. But to most, however, the most notable win came in the BIA decision on 212C relief. And thanks to our amicus effort, the BIA did away with 20+ years of artificial barriers to 212C relief. And as a result of that decision, more than a half dozen pages from Kurzebans can now be replaced with one single favorable citation. Thank you, amicus team. More recently, it appeared that the president's promised review of deportation policy was going to surface. We've been waiting for it. We know it's brewing. But it now looks like it's not going to happen perhaps until the end of the summer, because President Obama has given the Republican House one last opportunity to act. Now, here's hoping that they're going to take that opportunity and use the time given to them by the president to do what's right for this country and pass immigration reform. The stakes involved in immigration reform and policy have been heartbreakingly illustrated just the last several weeks as we see thousands and thousands of unaccompanied minors from Central America trek across Mexico to flee poverty and violence in Central America. They all come here hoping to find the U.S. as a safe haven. And we need to do our best to make certainly that what they seek is given to them. And as the administration attempts to craft a humane response, people get out there and they talk about all immigration lawyers do is deal in paper. Well, they're wrong, aren't they? Because it's the lives of people that we're privileged to deal with every day. I really like to address this issue, and it's called interference with the flight crew. As president, I didn't get to spend all my time working with our staff and other AILA members on the Hill, or even agency officials trying to fix adjudication or preparing more practice notices. I was given an extraordinarily unique opportunity to spend hours of time along with AILA staff and thousands of dollars from outside counsel working on message center rules so that certain members would be encouraged to play nice with each other on the AILA Message Center. I hope that message has been delivered. Oh, lest I forget, and in recent weeks, I've been focused on proxies and the Roberts Rules of Order. Well, you know what? We're an organization of 13,000 members, and it's no wonder that there's 13,000 opinions, 13,000 ideas of what we are, what we do, and how should we do it, or how we should do it. I'm great at public speaking, aren't I? But the bottom line is this, we function as an organization with the help of thousands of hours from our volunteers and from members committing to make this organization to be the best that it can be. And I want to thank them. I want to thank you. And to those of you who have offered constructive criticism, I also say thank you. And I want to share a quote, and I've been told not to give this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I want to share a quote from Theodore Roosevelt, which Katie Couric used in a commencement speech a few years ago. And I heard it then, I thought, I'm going to save that for something, and that was my opportunity to use that quote. And it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or whether the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcomings, but who does actually strive to do the deed, who knows the great enthusiasm, the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows, in the end, the triumph of high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. So to all those who have been in the arena, who have strived valiantly, whether they've come up short or not, thank you, and thank each of you. I love you guys. You're out of order. My favorite part of a flight, the beverage cart will be coming soon. And here's a bit of news which hasn't been widely circulated. From almost my first day in office, we've been working with Brent Renison, Angelo Paparelli, Cyrus Mehta, Jan Peterson, Kathleen Walker, Bill Stock, Ben Johnson, Melissa Crow at AIC, and others. And we've been working on a tool in the dark corners of our garage that's going to benefit our members and their clients, and it's called a petition for rulemaking. Everyone knows how hard AILA has worked in the rulemaking process, and we continue to work once a rule has been put forth by an agency up until the time that it's published. And most know how we have lobbied for new rules and changes in existing rules without success in recent years. Well, this team is now working from a different angle, creating a petition for rulemaking, which will draft model rules we want, file them with an appropriate court, and seek to compel the agency to act on those rules. This not only gives us a seat at the rulemaking table, but it allows us to offer a table that's already sitting there with the fixed menu. The first target is going to be the right to counsel. This is where I frustrate people. And the captain says, or the stewardess says, the attendant says, first, fasten your own seatbelt. I have two final points I'd like to make in my last moments as your president. Now, I want you to know that this organization has changed much over the years since it was formed as a professional bar association on October 14th, 1946. We just had a few members in 1946, less than a couple thousand members when I joined in 1983, and today we have over 13,000. Most of you are aware and have seen many of these changes, and there are some of you, and I'm not going to look at you right now, but you also almost go back to that beginning. And while a lot of things have changed, our articles of incorporation have not. And our stated purpose in those articles clearly states that we exist to cultivate the science of jurisprudence, promote reforms in immigration law, facilitate the administration of justice, promote standards of integrity, honor, and courtesy in the legal profession, cherish the spirit of cooperation among the members thereof. It's pretty clear to me that we were formed to be a professional bar association of immigration lawyers. Now, why do I reference this? Well, in my little world, in my sometimes blurred vision, and my kids and wife will tell you it's often blurred. But it sure seems to me that a few are working very hard to move us away from being an actual bar association, wherein part of our mission is to look out for the immigrants' rights, to more of an actual immigrants' rights organization. Now, don't back off yet, because these two concepts can go hand in hand. We always put them hand in hand. But we have gained our strength, our reputation, and our status from being a knowledge-based bar association advancing the practice of immigration law. And I think it's about time that the American Immigration Lawyers Association started doing a little bit better job of taking care of American immigration lawyers. Because if we do, others in the immigrant community will directly benefit therefrom. And the captain or the lieutenant says, in case there is loss in cabin pressure, yellow oxygen mask will deploy from the ceiling compartment located above you. To secure, pull the mask towards you, secure the elastic strap to your head, and fasten it so it covers your mouth and nose. Breathe normally. Even if the bag doesn't inflate, please keep in mind that the oxygen is still flowing. Please make sure to secure your own mask before assisting others. I was thinking about the time when I first started flying with my kids when they were little, and even today. Are they really kidding? Put on my own mask before putting on the mask of my children? Is that even possible for a parent? But when you think about it, it's not only possible, it's necessary. If you need oxygen in an airplane, you might only have seconds before passing out. And if you're unconscious, you can't help your kids and you can't help others. Well, it works the same way for us as immigration lawyers, as an immigration lawyer bar association. If we're not here, if we're not at our best, If we don't have the tools that we need, then who will be there to protect the rights of immigrants? There are dozens, perhaps hundreds of immigration rights organizations in this country. But there's only one professional bar association advancing the science of immigration law. Countless times over the last couple years, we've identified ourselves as an immigrants' rights organization and jumped on that train, followed the track built by others, and led by others. Now, if you doubt me, just go onto the AILA Infonet, the sign-on letters, go to home/pressroom/AILA/correspondence. But we are not an immigration rights organization. We are an immigration lawyers bar association. And we have much common ground with the former, much. But it's from the latter that we've gained our strength and we've gained our voice. This is not inconsistent with our current mission statement: to promote justice, advocate for fair and immigration law and policy, advance the quality of immigration and nationality law and practice, and enhance the professional development of its members. I encourage you to guard that ground. We are foremost a professional bar association, and that's what made us what we are today. Put your oxygen mask on first, put your own mask on, and then help others. Now, my final comment, I can tell after that last part, many are waiting for this. Get me off the stage. But nearly a year has now gone by since the Senate passed its immigration reform bill, S-744. The House has passed 5 bills out of committee, but has not yet brought a single bill to the floor. During this time, AILA has met with over 100 Republican House members, including the leaders on all these issues. I've met with many, and as the midterm elections draw near, the window of opportunity for immigration reform is closing. Given the urgency and magnitude of the crisis in our immigration system, America can wait no longer. AILA calls this day upon the Republican-led House to pass a bill before time runs out, functionally the end of June. Though a legislative solution is preferable, in the absence of legislation, AILA recommends that the President and DHS take steps by midsummer within the bounds of his executive authority to address 3 major problems in the immigration system. Number 1, DHS should reform the enforcement system. DHS is removing thousands of people each year who pose no threat to this country. They have families, including U.S. citizen children and lawful permanent resident parents, and strong ties to this country. More than 40% of all removals do not have any criminal conviction. PD should be exercised more robustly. DHS must also increase accountability and transparency, especially over enforcement and deportations, and especially over CBP border protection. DHS should use its legal authority to designate categories of people for whom it will provide temporary affirmative relief from enforcement action, as it did in 2012 with deferred action. The use of a expanded deferred action program for the close family of U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, and recipients of DACA individuals would be helpful to this country. Individuals who have long resided in the United States or have other strong community ties should also be looked at as possible candidates for expanded deferred action. And finally, we need reform in our adjudication process. USCIS all too often adopts the more restrictive interpretation, resulting in unnecessary denials of valid petitions. This approach has hurt business and it's hurt our country. It's time for a change. It's time for President Obama to do something if the House leadership doesn't step up and wrap its arms around this issue. You know, 6 years ago, I never thought I'd make it, having to run by petition. And it was 12 months ago, and sometimes it seems like 100, and sometimes it seems like only yesterday, that I was given this gavel and this opportunity to take this chair. And I look very, very, very much forward to that opportunity to giving you one of the most dynamic leaders this organization is going to have. And Leslie Holman, I cannot wait for us to start our introduction about you. Thank you very much.